Yo guys, Haku here, and today I have the Tower of God, chapter 268, that's season 2, episode 188, the Dallar Show 16 review. Man, that was a mouthful. But basically, this week's chapter was one of those that we get every now and again that was more of a game explanation chapter. There was more to it than that, but the bulk of this chapter was based around explaining the third round and final round of the Dallar Show. So the girl who showed up last week at the end of last week's chapter is still a mystery, but we know from what Evan says that she's very powerful. Like, I think he said something about her being like ranker strength. I'm not sure if that's right, but we can just sort of like go off of that and say, okay, she's really freaking strong, like surprisingly strong, and it likely has something to do with White's power and her having just a significant portion of it or something to that effect. So she does know and recognize Joaquin, but Joaquin doesn't recognize her. So that tells us that she isn't Albelda in the strict normal sense that Joaquin and Vicente, Anna, and David were all themselves. She's somehow been absorbed into somebody else or fused with somebody else or something that FUG has done to make this girl. We get to see that she's strong because she, I don't know if it was supposed to be like an effect to show that she moves very fast, but she sort of disappeared from by Piropo and appeared by Bomb and then back to Piropo, so we see she's kind of strong, and she tells Joaquin that she isn't helping him because she's testing to see if he's worthy of her strength, of the power that she as the last clone has. So pretty much she goes and makes a deal with Piropo that she can join whichever team she wants, do whatever like that, and in exchange for that, she's going to keep the deal that FUG made with Piropo. So she is going to be the one to revive Rowan or give him Rowan, whatever, if he allows her to join whichever team she wants. So very quickly, because I mean, if you read the chapter, you're going to know all about it, or if you watch the live reaction, you're going to hear me talk all about it, and it's the bulk of this chapter, which was the explanation of the game. And the game, round 3 of the Dallar Show, is known as Go to Hell. And pretty much the way that Go to Hell works is that Bomb and Joaquin are going to be fighting one-on-one on a platform over a central tube. And around the central tube, there's going to be a spiraling tube. And at the bottom of the spiraling tube, it's just going to be a boiling liquid substance that'll dissolve anything that hits it instantly, like within less than a second, they say. So one hostage from one team, I guess, and they say 3 rounds, but the first for 3 of their teammates, so maybe they're doing 6 rounds, 3 from each team. But either way, a hostage from one of the teams gets placed in a sub that's going to be flying down the spiraling pipe. And the 2 fighting, Bomb and Joaquin, they have to go down the central pipe in order to save the hostage that's in the spiraling pipe. And the central pipe is split into layers, and the deeper down it goes, the less dollars it costs to get there. So this was it was explained in detail, but it wasn't really very clear on a lot of things, and I think that's mostly due to translating it from one language to another. And that's the way it is with a lot of Tower of God games. It's hard to really understand what's happening and what they're supposed to be doing in practice until we see the game actually going on, because the explanations generally aren't very detailed as to what happens when the game actually gets started and how it actually works out. Now, during all of this, there's a second sub, and the second sub will have 1 member of each team within it. And again, they said 2 members from each team, but it's actually 1, so that's again just translation. They meant 2, 1 from each team, and that's why the translations with this get kind of weird. But basically, we have Kuhn and Rachel each volunteer to go in there, And that led to some cute and funny moments with Rack and everybody in the background talking about how confident Kun is, or Kun joking about Rachel's legs, that kind of thing. So it was interesting, and I'm not sure what I'm feeling about this game. I really like the way it's set up, but I just still have some questions about it, and I think those will be answered when we get into the actual playing of the game. So, of course, back into the actual plot line, Bomb's hostages are the group that was with Prince, and Prince is his first hostage that's up and in danger in the first round, and Joaquin's hostages are like Angel, Elliot, and Casino and the kid, and we get to see a clearer picture of the kid's face, and he does look a bit like Traveler, but I don't think he was wearing glasses. Now, there was a lot of nice artwork in this chapter, a lot of really nice artwork, like there was one that was just like a sort of mental picture, just showing what it would be like if Prince did die, and that was really detailed and kind of gruesome looking. And it was really cool and sort of a unique thing that I don't really think we've seen much of in Tower of God. And there was also very nice backgrounds this chapter, as well as facial panels. Like, the faces were very well drawn and really detailed this chapter. So once they're in the sub, we get to know from Rachel that obviously we could kind of understand it ourselves. Bomb's at a huge disadvantage in this game because he cares about all of his teammates' lives, and he isn't going to want one of the hostages to be killed, obviously. But with Joaquin doesn't give two shits about Rachel's teammates. So I went to say team and kind of drug it out into teammates, so that word sounded a bit weird. But yeah, so Joaquin doesn't give a shit, so he's at the advantage in that I'm just going to fight Bomb because if my teammates die, I don't really care that much. The only incentive Joaquin has to save his teammates is so he can earn more dollars. And this is the final round. If he is trying to kill Bomb and go after Bomb, then he doesn't really need to have the dollars. But Bomb's at a massive dollar advantage at this point, so if this goes to where it's going to be decided by dollar amount alone, and we all know that this never turns into something like that where it's like, okay, you won the game. No, something crazy is going to happen. It's going to be a life or death fight. It's sort of the end of an arc, kind of, that we're getting into. So, of course, something big is going to happen, and we're not going to decide by dollars, but if we were deciding by dollars, Joaquin would need a ton, because he's down by like 100. So back to Pedro, Yuri, and Evan, and Pedro did something that really bothered me. His panels were really cool, especially with seeing his face a little clearer, seeing him laugh. The really cool artistically drawn panel showing like the shadow, like sort of aura of Pedro with the death eyes, the glowing red eyes. But I hated that he does this like terrible villain trope where he just outlines his plan out loud to Yuri, and he didn't have to. He could have just sat in his chair and stayed quiet like he's been doing, but he details his plan out loud. And then, of course, just like every other movie we see where this happens, Yuri's like, oh, you know the little comedic effect 3D glasses we had on? Those are actually sending video of this to Repalista Zahard. So that just, I liked it. I thought it was funny and surprising, did not expect it, but I hated it in that it really made him seem like a really crappy villain when he'd been so cool up until this point, and then he's like, let me just detail my plan aloud to you guys. So now, of course, we've got tons of hype next week for a potential Yuri versus Pedro fight, and if that happens, it's going to be really cool seeing two strong rankers get to fight. I'm not sure if Pedro's a high ranker, but Yuri is. Pretty sure she's a high ranker. Yeah, she's like 500 or something like that. Something like that. But actually, no, maybe she's a bit back. Sorry, getting a little rambly. But yeah, thought the artwork was great. Really, really nice artwork. And the plot progression was okay. I guess okay is the best I can call it. It was good in some parts, but you couldn't expect much more from a game explanation chapter. And I think because this one didn't really do a ton plot-wise, I'm going to have to give this one like 7.5 recording 3D glasses out of 10. So not the greatest, but it was still very good. Some nice artwork, and it was very good for what it was, for a game explanation chapter. Still got a lot done. So I think that's about it for my thoughts on this chapter. I thank you guys so very much for watching. Like if you liked it, share with your fellow Tower of God loving friends. Subscribe if you want to see more Tower of God, One Piece, The Walking Dead, and anime reviews, and much more, whatever we feel like doing. So, yeah, thank you so very much for all that. Follow on Twitter for updates with what's going on, because sometimes something happens and I can't post a video when I think I'm going to, or like something gets delayed, like the One Piece episode last week, or rather this week-ish, earlier this week, late last week. You know what I mean. So, thank you all so very much, and I will see you all next time.